The regular meeting of the Prairie View City Council will now be called to order at 6:09 p.m. Did you have Ms. Dickey come in? Roll call for the regular meeting.
Councilman Brian Rowland.
Here.
Councilman Jonathan Randall.
Here.
Councilman Kendra Jones.
Here.
Councilman Wendy Williams. Here. Councilman Paulette Barnett. Here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
And Council, the invocation and pledge.
We've already done
Me?
it. You don't need to do it again.
Okay, so we'll skip that since we're already seated. Citizen comments. Mr. Marshall Brown.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just have a few comments that were brought up during the last meeting. 3 comments, in fact. If you can pass these around. This is about the approved hotel bread and breakfast with Dr. Hawkins and his wife. The zoning for a bed and breakfast comes under the category of a hotel. It's just a special size hotel, that's all it is. And it's the same zoning that's required for each one. So with that, I recommend that you approve what the committee has sent out. The other issue was, you pass these around. The council asked a question if we had a farm that required the setbacks, rear yard and front yard and side yard setbacks for the applications. And this is a form that's in our notebook. And it should go out with all applications, and we'll have all of those, all of that information. The last recommendation, Dorothy Carter requested that she wanted to retire from the committee, and I want to recommend Mr. Curtis Anderson to take her place. He has a degree in engineering and he understands some of these issues. If there's any questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Zante, am I saying that right? Zante Wallace? Yeah. Yes, yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Exante Wallace. I am the SGA Vice President for Prairie View A&M University. I just came up here to speak about a project that we're working on for a semester, which is a Special Olympics. I know some of the people on our team have been already reaching out to some of y'all, but I wanted to just announce y'all, but also the public here. We're doing this big project in which one of the students had an idea that they wanted to bring special ed students from different districts across the city and the county to bring together so that we can have kind of a bonding moment and really connect not only as a university but also in the community. We are reaching out to schools in Cy Fair, to Waller, and other communities around the surrounding areas. So we just ask, you know, when we get more details and as we continue to move forward, that we just continue to get the city support, because we really want this to be a big event, and hopefully if it goes successful, it'll be an annual thing, and that we can utilize this to make news, to give a bright light to Prairie View, and just to uplift the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. B. Brown?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members, and wonderful citizens of Prairie View. It's an honor for me to be here. I have two quick things that I need to address that are very important. Number one is the way our city, the population of our city is very unique. The majority of our city, about 10,000 people, community members, are young people, student population. And they have a lot of political power. On the other hand, you have a solid group of people who help build the city, pay the majority of the taxes for the city. And as a matter of fact, I don't see any senior citizens even up here. Don't have any political representation, but carry a big burden financially. And as far as the city council and the mayor is concerned, there's really nothing that I can say about that because that's a result of voting. But I can say this, that I think it's very important that on the commissions that we have, like, for example, planning and zoning, that we include some of those 10,000 that are community members that are young. And the reason I'm saying that, because when I look at the composition of commissions and committees, most of them are like me, old. And I'm saying that it's important because an initiative came up that I really honestly believe if a young person had been on that commission, they would have figured out a way to technologically communicate with a person that wasn't there, and the outcome would have been different. Young people I'm on 4B, and we have young people, and sometimes when we're struggling with old ideas, the way we solve problems, they'll say, well, just hit this app. I didn't even know what the app was. Just do this and so on, so well, problem solved. So I think it's very important. This is the second time I bought this before the city council. I bought it before you guys 7 months ago. That I believe that on every commission and committee, you need to have a young person. Second point that I want to bring up is very important. There's a difference between personal attacks and attacks on issues. If I get into an argument with you or a discussion with you, it's not personal. I'm attacking an issue. Now, if I say you got big feet and your mom is ugly, that's personal. But if I say your issue, what you're talking about, doesn't have a solid foundation, and I argue tenets of your position on an issue, that's totally legitimate. There's a difference between a personal attack and an attack on the issue. I will attack the issue. If you come before me with a weak issue, I will hop on it. It's not personal. I can get up with you after the meeting. We can go have a drink, have dinner, laugh and talk. Because it's like I care about y'all, I respect y'all, everybody. But I don't always agree with your position. And I don't always agree with the issues that you bring forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Marie Herndon?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and all in attendance. I noticed an agenda item and on here that I wanted to address. In 2011, I was on the City Council. We did pass a resolution, and I want to share the intent of that resolution. The intent of the resolution was to ensure that the city did not provide financial assistance to any individual or company that owed money to the city or owed to the city for utilities or anything. They were not to be issued a permit for anything until they at least paid that debt or were making a payment arrangement, and not to wait until they wanted a permit to come before the council or the citizens for a payment arrangement. So that resolution was passed in October of 2011, and that has something to do directly with one of the agenda items, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood the intent of the resolution. Thank you.
Reverend Dr. Simeon Queen.
Greetings, council and mayor. I come before you as a past citizen of Prairie, the city, as well as an 11-year chairman of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, as well as 8 years city council, as well as 3 years mayor pro tem. I wish it would be in better circumstances, but the circumstances that have arisen, it seems as though it is reflective of the item 8. And if you look in item 8, you would see my name and Councilmember Rowland's name. It, by simply being in the agenda, is a personal attack. According to the City of Prairie rules and guidelines, first of all, I don't owe any money to the City of Prairie View. Everything I paid for before I left, which was maybe about, 4 years ago. But all of a sudden, after 4 years of being gone and thriving in the city of Houston, my name happens to be on the agenda twice in the last 3 months. And it's very disheartening because if it was a collections issue, it should actually go to the process of collections. And if there is a $212,000 outstanding balance for water bills, wouldn't you think that it would have everybody who actually is outstanding for the last whatever years amount? But what we see now is shame on you, Mayor. Shame on you for using your personal platform for political reasoning and benefit. And what you look at now, and I'm trying to be neighborly because my attorney wanted to come with me tonight. And I'm like, this makes no sense at all. And what I would say is to not put the city of Prairie View into jeopardy of discrimination by someone who actually served the city of Prairie View well, that you would table the issue and get rid of it before actions, legal actions are applied. And it's just disheartening. Me and my wife just came back to Prairie View to start a business for the students of Prairie View and to give back. And to be attacked on the entrance of that business is very disheartening. Also to see that you put Brian Rowland's name in there because everybody knows he's running for mayor against you. So the point is, it's just disheartening. It's not a neighborly thing to do. And the point is, if you're going to do it across the board, even if by some chance, by a glitch in the system that I owed some money, it should have been noted through collections, just as everybody else who so say didn't pay a water bill, the $212,000 that you've listed. But for some reason, you decided that you, a personal, to put my name and Councilmember Rowland's name, which is just disheartening. Especially when I've talked with you, I've looked you in your eyes, I've looked you in your face, man to man, and we've had conversation, good conversation, and you've not mentioned one thing. But I have to get a phone call actually I got a text while I was at church to say that I'm on the agenda. It's very disheartening, sir, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1, consider and take action for approval of the meeting minutes for the regular city council meeting on January 8, 2018. What's the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Jones?
I'd like to approve the minutes of last meeting.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the minutes of the last meeting be approved. You've heard the motion, ready for the questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Departmental reports. Ms. Dickey, anything that you have to share with council?
And I'd like to just share with council, we had some issues or some unrest on the meeting minutes prior, and I gave you a copy of that too, just so you guys could see that and review what we were gonna call our official minutes, okay? I'm leaving tomorrow to go to election boot camp. So I'm really excited about that opportunity to do that, to learn more about our equipment, to learn more moving forward about the whole entire process. So when I get back, I'll definitely have some more information on it and things that I want to share. And so just know that this coming week, if you guys are calling, be sure to call Miss Durham or leave a message, and I'll be checking messages and emails periodically during the evening. Just changes going on in the office. As y'all saw, Myra come through. She is due on Wednesday. She graciously came in to help me. We had a large packet this time. I think the council saw that. So she did graciously come in and help me with that. So y'all keep her in your prayers and think about her on Wednesday morning because she's scheduled for a C-section. So we'll be ready for that. Okay? Thank you.
And on a part of administration, in working with the chief, it's pretty easy. He handles all that law enforcement stuff and does a great job. Same thing with judge with municipal court. But I'll tell you, one of the, with all the volumes of issues that we deal with from public works or administration and running the city, one of the things that probably only Ms. Durham can attest to, one of the hardest tasks I have, which happens almost daily, is having to make a decision as to whether or not to cut off somebody's water. Sometimes a business, not often, because we don't have many, but often someone's personal water, and sometimes they've got children. How many kids did that lady last week have? Four kids. And we try to work with them, put them on a payment plan and that sort of thing. So when situations arise, my job, based on policy set by city council, not necessarily this council, but city council, and per the resolution that council has in front of it, dated October 25th, 2011, to address issues that are uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. But so was several months ago when I got with Ms. Durham and wanted to assess where are we? Where are we? We know we had gone through, well, we're still going through the Texas Ranger District Attorney investigation. But to look up at a report that she printed for me and show that there was over $277,000 in former customers' unpaid water bills. You heard us discuss a little earlier about roughly the almost $400,000 that the city, assuming that number doesn't change, owes the university. If we had $277,000 of that $400,000 wouldn't seem like such a big number. And to know that we had to put systems in place, I'm on my administration report, Councilman. That's a part of my job. Now, council sets policy. My job, per the new home rule charter, is to bring the issues to council to vote them up or down. But my job, as you heard earlier, you want the information. Well, all the information I'm bringing you is not going to be so comfortable, and it's not always going to be information that you want. But I'm going to bring it regardless, because my background is in business, and that's what I do. Now, this, on my report.
This is an agenda item, right? Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we can go into it. at the agenda.
No, it's an agenda item. Yes, it is, an agenda item. But the dealing with so many people's situation with how do we handle a water leak that took place and the person wasn't home and now they got a $1,000 water bill when they usually have a $44 basic bill. These are decisions and they affect the running of the city. We used to have 2 public works guys here, now we have 3. We used to have 1 running truck, now we've got 2 new ones and the former truck is running. These things have to be paid for. And they are paid public work-wise through Public Works. But we'll go forward and we'll get into it as we get into it on agenda. But from an administration standpoint, you need to understand there's nothing personal about this. The only reason someone would find their name on a different list is because you were in a different capacity. And as elected officials, there is no expectation of privacy. So, you have a question on my report?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
This last weekend, we experienced a heavy winter advisory. The city hall moved forward in their I don't know if it was a, can you, my question, one, who is the emergency contact? Is it you and then the chief, or is it now just the chief? Since I know we voted on something, I thought it was to make him the assistant emergency management person, but you stated in an email that he is the person. So I want to get clarity on that issue, because council, when we had the weather issues this last weekend, I sent an email for updated information. I got the same information that every citizen got during a robocall. And so I called around, I called the chief, and I called the attorney, I called the mayor, and I just wanted information so when citizens who were calling me, I could direct them to what our plan of action was. And for some people, I guess that was not what a city council is supposed to do. But for those who don't know, that's what we are supposed to do. And so one, who is the emergency management contact? Is it yourself and then the chief, or is it the chief? Because y'all had an emergency management meeting that morning. And after that meeting, communication should have went out to council to update us on what's going on. And we hope that moving forward that we are brought in the loop as far as communication. Whether we can come, whether it's by email, whether it's by text, or whether it's by a phone call, we need to have the most updated information so we can communicate to citizens. As city council people, that is what we do, communicate the message of the administration. And so,
let me give a point of order. This is actually on the agenda under the mayor's report. So let's hold that until the mayor's report when he's going to talk about reviewed emergency management plan and implementation by Chief Solomon. It's on the agenda.
Finance, Mr. Johnson, anything you want to share with us?
Oh, yeah. Just one item. I didn't have anything to say when Public Works was up here, but I'm going to kind of address a question that Brian had. If y'all go back to the report that USW just gave you and look at the page that says statement, that the page here says statement. I was just looking at it. There is an encouraging situation here. If you look at the very top at 11:30. The invoice at 11:30, those are the current month invoices that they have sent to us. You'll see November was $22,248, and the one in December is $11,094. So that's a
What page you on?
the one that says statement. It's the third page. And Brian, that goes to the question you had of some indication that the upgrades and all the work that they've done are we getting some improvements, especially at the lift stations? And so this is an indication there that we have gotten some improvement. Now, I'm hoping it'll stay, it'll continue. But I'm just looking at that, and I just happen to see this, that is an improvement there between just those 2 months right there. I just want to bring that to your attention.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Municipal Court, Judge?
Good evening. I submitted my report during the last council meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Police report, Chief Solomon?
I submitted mine in the last meeting.
Should I guess, Chief, want to thank you and the officers for the great work you did during this winter advisory. We know that the officers had to work, were staying in the city and the community. That was important that you made that decision, so I thank you for what you're doing. I just, again, hopefully we can keep the communication open.
Sounds like we just need some protocols.
The emergency management guidelines tell us what those are. Incident command.
The Public Works operation, you've heard from, do you have anything else you want to know from Public Works?
Yes.
And USW Utility? Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
Yes, sir.
As many of us, as we asked to get the contract from, are they gone? We asked for a contract at the last meeting. Ms. Dickey sent over the contract and we have a hard copy. Is this I have two questions because I just got some information. Is this the contract that we signed? Many of you, is this the contract we signed currently or the one moving forward? Because one, they have a contract renewal coming up, and two, we're in an emergency management contract going on almost a year, which they charge us 50% administration fee on top of everything that we shouldn't be paying that. And so the two questions: one, are we still in an emergency management contract? What are we going to do moving forward? That's why I continue to ask them for this overall plan that they should be giving us for the amount of money we're paying. Number two, is this professional service contract our current contract, or is this what they want us to sign that you had signed before, Mr. Mayor?
This is the emergency services contract that we signed previously, and we're about to post for the regular. But because we found ourselves in so many situations, not just with what they found, but when you look at, in the last 12 months, we've had a couple of major FEMA situations where we were deemed an emergency scenario, Waller County as well as the city. So until they gave us some stability, we weren't really ready to bring in someone new, because of all the things that we were aware of that they were in the process of. They were handling insurance claims, helping us tremendously with FEMA claims and things like that. So that's what that one is. But it is the prior emergency services that we're actively about to come out from under now that all the work that you see, even though it's not finalized from FEMA reimbursements or insurance reimbursements, all that information and claims have been filed. So we can move forward.
So we're going to make sure that we reduce this cost plus 15%, because again.
Yes, absolutely. Again, that's the emergency. Now keep in mind too, since you weren't here, let me make sure everyone understands what happened. We looked up one day and the Public Works Supervisor, Mr. Alexander, said, listen, I'm going to take another job and I'm leaving tomorrow or the next day. Okay, we needed folks in here who had those water licenses. We brought in Mr. Rufus for a minute, and without doing the kind of work involved, it was prohibitively expensive. But again, I couldn't expose the city to us not having those licensed people. And then ran into some literature, contacted USW. Mr. Bostic came out the next day, and we were covered. We were able to take Mr. Rufus out from the contract he was under, and then they did the assessment, pointing out the things that have been shared with you, and we've just been working to get them done ever since.
I appreciate it. I just, again, as far as Public Works, hopefully, USW doesn't do the great work that they do for free. They charge us, and so they've come into a lot of work, as you can see about the amounts we talked about, over, you know, a couple $100,000 in work that was not planned, and then they're making 15% on top of that. And so I would just hope that we be very mindful moving forward and either negotiating a different rate, because again, they've gotten more work, not as an emergency service capacity, but they've been doing some regular work, doing upgrades. That's not I guess, basic everyday work. And so we want to, you know, there's a difference between a maintenance contract, which is what we brought them in here to do, versus the new work, new money that they've gotten. They shouldn't be charged additional 15% on top.
Well, sure, and you bring up some valid points, believe me, but keep in mind, I corrected him. You're not upgrading when you're fixing what was incorrect. When you got the wrong engine in there and it doesn't process, one of the reasons why this was actually kind of easy for me, I took a look at the bills that had been coming in prior to me taking office, and all I saw was $4,000, $8,000 per job to plumbing companies from Waller to the ones that we have in Prairie View. And all they were doing was fixing whatever, you know, that thing was, or when they had to call out, Mr. Glover primarily was calling out these big back trucks and things to suck up Greenfield and others. And so many people in the city were complaining about sewage backing up in their house, especially when we had a heavy rain. So I knew we had a systemic problem just from looking at the billing. But again, extremely valid points, but just want to make sure we understand where we were versus where we are now, when we're not getting those calls and having to send our people out just so they can call out some other company out of Houston that charges us thousands of dollars for one night and one issue. But yeah, we're in much better shape, and we'll definitely keep an eye on that. And as we put that bid out and other things come in, of course, those will be brought to council.
The bid's going to come out and go, so we can send it out. When are we thinking? I think they said a year is next month. So do we have an RFP? You know, who's putting that together?
Yes, I am. And we discussed that today. They've got an exemplar, and I've got something else that I'm going to run by our city attorney as well. But yeah, we're moving to lower those costs now that we're somewhat settled. Under the mayor's report, the emergency management plan, as it states, implemented by Police Chief Solomon. You said you had questions as to who was running that?
Yes.
Chief Solomon was running that.
So
People call both of us, of course, but I defer, and Chief Solomon was overseeing that operation. Go ahead.
Okay. So I just want to be very clear. In the process, in the manual, in the plan, there's a person identified, then we follow incident command. Who is is it you and you defer to him, or is it him totally out? That should be in our plan. And so I know we voted to, after Hurricane Harvey, to bring Chief Solomon, but I thought that was to make him assistant. Are we changing the order, or what specifically in our plan says the main contact person for emergency management is who?
As I just stated, and as we're talking here, Police Chief Solomon.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions on the emergency management plan? Now, you made a comment earlier about you requested information. I did respond to your email from that afternoon, but when you called it at about midday, the cars were so iced up that people couldn't see out of them, that I helped clear the ice out of yours, Miss Dickey, and I got our ladies out of here and off those roads and let Judge get safely back to her home. That was somewhere around noon. By the time your email came at 3 o'clock, I, like the officers, was out there in the cold checking on people and making sure folks were safe. So I was not interested in email. I wasn't looking at email, number one. And there were several calls that I wound up getting back to later because it was about checking on people's safety. One of the things I found was we had the water leak over. Sarge, I think you called me on, over at the community center. Water was gushing out like a river. That's what we were dealing with. Now, I think I saw your email, if not late that night, the next morning, and I responded, and I did tell you those were the kind of things that I was doing, checking on our seniors and that sort of thing. I sent out a robocall because I know all of our council members get the robocalls, and we sent the robocall out pretty expeditiously, as I recall. Shortly after we closed? Yeah, shortly after we closed.
And then
So-
9 o'clock the next morning was
Yeah,
the
it was
next
sent out
one.
too. So the information, again, you make it sound like you're not informed. In an emergency, as I told you in my email, if you want to help, come out here and help us check on the people. But if you just want to talk about what I'm doing and that sort of thing, then in an emergency, in those situations, when so much is going on, I'm seeing what our police are handling and checking on residents, seniors often who are widows living alone and those sort of things. Some seniors some students who I heard had no heat in their house to make sure they were okay. That's where I'm at. Now, we went through this after the prior hurricane, and you bring back the same points that we addressed back then. Nothing has changed. Chief is in charge. As mayor, if there's some serious calls that need to be made, then the state gives me that right, and I will use it. But I defer to Chief's experience in that emergency situation, and I've got my full faith and confidence in his ability to do so. And he's done a great job with it, as he did during the flooding, and as he did during homecoming, and as he did during this situation. I don't mind answering questions, but it would be nice if there were some new questions and not the same stuff about a different emergency.
Again, Mr. Mayor, in emergency management, the reason why I asked is that my email that went to you, I got calls, and I was out helping people too. I got calls that they received a robocall. The robocall, people perceived the robocall is that it said the city of Prairie View City Hall is closed. If you need any assistance, call 911 in Waller County, and then they'll dispatch a Prairie View police officer. Didn't leave any information. In my email, I asked you about a warming center. Did the city of Prairie View have a warming center? If you don't know what a warming center is, it's a place where if you didn't have heat, if your house ain't insulated, you can come and you don't freeze to death. I asked, did Waller County have a warming center? Did you have conversation with the county judge? In other cities, in other counties, that's what they do. That email was to you, wasn't to everybody, and it was to council. And I keep bringing these up because my role on city council, just like if any citizen called me, is to follow the chain of command. There's an incident command when things happen of this nature. You just happen not to follow it. If the chief is the incident command, there's a form of communication. Y'all had a briefing that morning. And in that briefing, it would have hurt whoever was running it. He was there to communicate to council what's going on, so when people call us, we know what's going on and we know what the plan of action is. That's all I'm saying. Not that we have to do anything more, but we do need to be communicated. Chief and I talked, and he said that he was in charge, and he gave me some of the information after the fact, where citizens was asking me information. And so it is my right and duty. And so I don't want to go into a back and forth, but I'm saying that there's what is called incident command. And there's a training you could take with FEMA if you don't know the process that communicates as far as how the information flows and how it gets out to both the leaders, all the leadership in the community, but also citizens. When citizens call City Hall over those last two.
Hold on. Are you asking me a question about my report? Because I don't need you to try to give it.
I'm asking you in reference to, my question was during your administration. The attorney said I need to wait to talk to you about on here. So this could have been in your administrative report or here, it doesn't matter. But my question was City Hall's phones down for 2 days?
No. I think they were down for 3 days.
Okay, so if they were down and citizens were calling City Hall, how did they know that?
No one knew, and AT&T couldn't fix it. You couldn't fix it. Hold on, you asked a question.
Yes, I did.
I'm giving you an answer. We had, AT&T and 2 other companies come in here trying to fix that situation, NSD and someone else. The phones went down, and that's another reason why we said call dispatch. For those of us who live here, we understand that when you call dispatch in Waller County, they dispatch a PVPD if it's here, a Hempstead PD if it's in Hempstead, and a Waller PD if it's in Waller. They handle dispatch for the county. You don't call PVPD when our officers are out there on the beat making it happen. So we did what we were supposed to do. We wanted to make sure people had a working phone to call, which was Waller County Dispatch Sheriff's Office, and asked for, we gave them that to make sure they understood, asked for a PV officer, and the information was going to get to the officer and to Chief and myself. That's how that works. Councilman, you have a question?
Yeah, just briefly, Dr. Brown, she came up here and she said, there's a difference between, arguing about personal and policy, and I think we get kind of convoluted sometimes. So what I'm saying with that is that I don't think anybody's questioning, your effort and how you handled the storm. We know, obviously, by the result after the storm that everything was taken care of properly. I think the request from Councilman Rowland is saying that it will be essential for us as part of the governing body of the city as to when y'all develop the plan and say, hey, we know this occurrence is going to happen. Hey, we plan, this is what we're going to do, these are our steps of action, to relay that to the council, so if they can't get in touch with you all and they contact us, we can give them the answer as well. Nobody's questioning, what you did during the storm. We understand, you, the chief, the police department, they were all working hard. All that this conversation is about is keeping the line of communication open so that when people can't get in touch with you and constituents who know and trust us, call us with questions, we can have answers to them. And I think this issue goes across multiple topics. But in order for us to effectively do our job as elected officials in this city, we have to have an open line of communication so where nobody wants. I don't want to do your job. I understand your job is to be the day-to-day, but there's essential information that we should be able to have in order to communicate it to the people who voted for us to represent.
Point well taken. Next item, well, let me just finish my report, I guess. In doing welfare checks on the seniors, that's what I said. We had several pipe bursts, and there were a couple of situations where we had to have our guys come out and do some overtime to at least cut it off or point it out to the residents that it was on their side. I shared the wastewater treatment meeting with the university administration, with Councilwoman Wendy Williams set up, and like I said, we'll be updating you on that. The $350,000 grant to updo the old clay pipes in our oldest area, that is in the environmental stage, which is pretty much the final stage according to the project manager. So we're hoping to actually just move that, and they mentioned it might be done as soon as, if not March or April.
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
You said yourself and Ms. Dickey has the, or you've given, but the previous council has a copy of what that is, so how do we get that? Or is that what they're doing?
It's been granted.
Well, right, we know
and it's been granted and awarded, so.
So we received a check, and then the RFP as far as the services and the lines is going to change out. We have a diagram of, we're going to remove, this many yards of pipe. We're going to.
Yes.
We have that plan.
Yeah, and it's in a big roll thing. It's on my desk, and you're welcome to see it anytime. But it's the diagram and the actual work.
Right, but we should have. We don't have a working plan to where we can connect as we build through. If Alta Vista is going to be changed with the whole $350,000, if we have to put in another, if we got another grant for another community, how do we connect those dots? And so I guess I'm just saying, outside of the big rolled up paper, do we have something to where if we wanted to chart this process, connecting it with maybe another development, how is that, where is that going to be housed?
Well, grants are sometimes pretty specific, and Alta Vista we just happen to qualify for that because of the age, the clay pipes, the situation, the number of seniors. living in Alta Vista. So that was a grant specific
Okay.
that fit that project and following what the engineer and the project manager did to get it, and we were blessed to fix that. But there's some other things, other grants, even spoken with Mr. Anderson and a few others. It's just about going, what do we qualify for wherever it is in the city? Sometimes there is no roadmap because you don't know who you're going to get money from or for what purpose. So it could be over on this side of town today and the next one maybe on the other side in Rosewood because Rosewood qualified for a particular grant that the rest of the city didn't. But in following up on that though, we're working with the university with the 60 plus acres that they've got. There's going to be some development that they're doing. Same with the Richards Road $12 million apartment complex. Met with them again today and actually again on Saturday. And they're doing some things over there, and I put them with the engineer, David Leindecker, today. So some of the things are being developed by project and by private money. Others, where we can, just like the $1 million James Muse grant, that's going to do a lot of things from Business 290 to Owens up over to the new school. And in checking with our guys, Mr. Glover and Mr. Silver, we were reading the maps 2 months ago and found out that just east of the entrance to University Drive, that part has 2 pipes that just end. So we're checking to see maybe in-house if we could just connect them to add to the flow. So it's those type of things. And that's why while, you know, and believe me, Councilman, I appreciate the mapping it out portion. It's just that some of this stuff, you know, the best laid plans are what do we have money for, or what can we get someone else to do that's going to help with the particular surrounding area. But again, anything that we can and will do, and certainly to update council, that's what we want to do. I'm sorry, Councilman.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just kind of in collaboration with what both of you all said, I was just gonna ask the question. You know, I guess 2-3 meetings prior, we had the discussion about the development of the road maintenance schedule as far as how we about developing that schedule about when and
upgrading the roads and things.
Yeah, as we upgrade them, like we develop a needs analysis as far as what roads would be high priority, and then we go through that. Would it be possible for us to, because I believe the plan that Councilman Oaks asked me, I don't think it exists. So would it be possible for us to maybe give the engineer?
I want to do a point of order on that, since that's not on the agenda at all, to have that put on the agenda when you do the agenda report.
Okay, so we'll add that to the next agenda,
Yes.
if you will.
Well, I wasn't asking about putting. I'm asking if it was a possibility to develop the plan. Not can we talk about the plan. I was wanting to know if it's something that's actually possible with the fact that it's underwater, underground piping.
And there's nothing on the agenda dealing with road plan right now.
Well, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about.
He gave the example of the road plan, but he's talking about this project.
The waste. I'm talking about the water lines. I just used the roads as the
Okay.
example because we've already referenced that previously.
Okay.
Yes, we have one, and in a conversation a couple weeks ago with the engineer, that came up, and getting with the project manager whose company the council chartered to do that, I don't know how many years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, looking to see if they can do an updated one to include maybe our new project, stuff like that, because there have been some changes.
Yeah, the reason why I asked is because one thing we don't want is citizens feeling like other citizens are getting preferential treatment. So we can say, hey, when this money becomes available, your community is getting its water lines upgraded, but there's a schedule saying that, you know, these are the list of priorities and this is how it's going to go. If we can, you know, start putting those plans together, you know, just, you know, across the board, I think that would be beneficial for us going forward.
Sure. Volunteer with the Houston Food Bank. The cricket coming to Prairie, the second largest sport in the world. As I mentioned a couple of meetings ago, and it looks like it's, again, continuing to go forward, and as usual, even though there's, well, actually they do own about 20 acres and they're just looking to buy another 60 to, this is, again, my way of making sure I keep council aware of what's I'm involved with, what people are talking to me about, just being the epitome of open government. So if there's something you hear me talk about up here, you should be able to look at one of the mayor's reports and see it on there in some form or fashion, because if it's worth talking about, I try to put it on here. And again, this is my way of trying to keep everybody informed. That would put us over Katy, which has 3 cricket fields, and they don't have any such thing in Houston, Los Angeles, Florida. So there'll be potentially international cricket tournaments here in the city of Prairie View. And they are very serious, and again, just letting you know, there's no ink on no paper, but you know in advance, and when some paper comes, because it's a private development, I'm still gonna make you aware. You know, these folks are starting to build on it. As a matter of fact, I'm putting them in touch with architecture students to help with the drawing, to connect them with, you know, us, the university, that sort of thing. I found out that the Texas Water Development Board has actually up to $500,000 or more in disaster recovery response special funding for water-related infrastructure. So as we have an opportunity to apply for it, the resources and the time to get it done, when it comes through, the record's clear. We haven't applied, we're going to, we found it, and if we get it, it won't be the first time you heard about it. So again, just trying to keep everyone informed on what I'm working. Item number 2, discuss and take action on using the app Remind 101 to enhance communication so the city council can be informed of different city updates. Councilman Jones.
Before we go into that, I think we skipped council reports.
Oh, okay. Councilman Rowland?
Citizens, I have a report. I wasn't able to get copies. In my report, you know, I went and I had the opportunity to go support the men's breakfast here in the Prairie View with Dr. William Trotty, who was the guest speaker this last Saturday, who was also on my dissertation chair. And he just talked about his journey in connecting prayer, talking about keeping hope alive and being my brother's keeper, connection of his service through, or what his pastor called his ministry to Prairie A&M University. And so that was great. Had the opportunity to also represent the city and also support and speak at the MLK program here in the local program here in the city of Prairie View. As the president of the Prairie View Chamber, we supported our newest business that joined the Prairie View Chamber, which was Nacho Queen, and then I have a picture of all the other community people who came out to also support this new local business here in our community. I also had the opportunity to represent the city in a 5K run in San Antonio for one of the largest MLK programs that they have around the country is in San Antonio. I was in our MLK program here on Monday, but on Sunday I ran a 5K representing the city with the Young Men's Leadership Academy in San Antonio. Again, we are upcoming. We have our Boy Scout troop meeting here January 24th, which is this Wednesday. We have our Prairie View Chamber of Commerce meeting, which is this Thursday, where I'm currently the president. There's also going to be a student assembly happening at Prairie View on January 25th. January 14th, I had the opportunity to represent at a corporate advisory board meeting at the HEB headquarters here in Houston, where we met with several corporate advisory board members who we had the opportunity to kind of work with. How do we engage corporations about coming to the city of Prairie View, creating economic development? What are their expectations and what they're looking for? Many of you may or may not know that Amazon put out the top 20 cities that they're looking to move a distribution center. Now, we're not on the list, but they put out the top 20 cities that they're going to be moving to. And what we want to do is follow with the chamber, the economic development 4B, as city council, and just to follow the trends on what do we need to do to start to support our community. We had, on January 26th, I'll be going to the Texas Association of Black City Council Members executive meeting. We're going to be having that here in Houston. And on January 27th, I'll be at the Texas NAACP Quarterlies meeting, also here in Houston. I also volunteered at the Houston Food Bank at St. Francis of Assisi. Again, it's also always a pleasure to serve. If you want to get involved, roll up your sleeves. Again, because there's enough work for the city of Prairie to go around. Thank you again.
All right, thank you. Just a few things. I had the privilege to attend the inaugural MLK celebration in the city of Pearland. It was the Saturday before MLK Day, and it was their first. They gave 5 scholarships to young men who had entered in the essays, and there are several congressional candidates, most of them women, most of them black women, and it was a privilege to be invited and to be included into that celebration, because it's the first time the city of Pearland has ever had any kind of MLK celebration. And so they had a subsequent celebration that next day, and then they ended the service with a church service that Sunday. Also, that Monday, I attended our local MLK parade in Hempstead. I was able to march and walk from via factory to Greater St. Peter's Missionary Baptist Church, as I've done every year since I've been here pretty much. But it's a program that it needs more support from the community. I watched the participation decline since I've been a part of that parade, and it's the only parade that we have locally, so we have to figure out how we can ignite it and bring life to it and give it the support that it needs. Lastly, my organization, Hustle Sports, we brought the only free youth football camp to Waller County last year, and we're beginning our preparations for that again this year. And the only way that we can provide that free camp to those 5 to 13-year-old youth is through sponsorships and donations. So I will be reaching out to the chamber and as well as to the city. Hopefully, they got love for the kids, because like I said, we're the only football camp period in Waller County. We're the only free one probably in a 40-mile radius. And the kids of our demographics can't afford to pay $50, $60, $70 for a football camp. And so myself and a couple of guys I went to high school with, who all went on to play college ball, some went on to play pro ball, we brought 15 to 20 other athletes who played at the highest levels to coach these kids and spend the day with these kids. Then we feed them. We had obstacle courses at the end, water balloon fights. But all of that costs money, and typically we come out of it out of our own pocket. But because we've been blessed enough to do so, but donations and sponsorships would definitely help us make this camp even bigger and better. The camp's not going to be until June 23rd, so we have plenty of time. We have levels of sponsorship forms. We're still coming up with the sponsorship form, but we have $100, $500. $1,000, and there are things that are included in each packet of the sponsorship form, but like I said, it hasn't been printed out yet. We just pretty much drafted it 2 days ago. So, as always, it's a pleasure to serve. And sometimes the work you do doesn't need to be visible as long as you're working. And that's what I believe. I believe in being in the shadows and just making sure that the people who see me the most are the ones impacted the most. So, thank y'all. God bless you.
Good afternoon. I have had the opportunity, well, good evening. I have had the opportunity to serve, and I'm grateful for it. Over this past, last week, me and Exante Wise was fortunate enough to hold MLK off day, a day off on a day on. I also got the opportunity to do work out in the community and help some of our families and churches with the help of council member Wendy Williams. I'm going out to help out at the fire station as well as churches. In the near future, we'll be partnering up. Today I got several students on campus to sign the documentations, basically to have an agreement to adopt Jones Elementary to basically start building that bridge and that gap of our next generation of leaders, as well as it's an opportunity coming forward within the city with the YMCA. Look, as me and Councilmember Rowland look forward to inviting those kids into our cities so that one day they could grow that 10,000 students that we have and be productive citizens of Prairie. And I continue to try to get students to do more civic engagement out in the community, just as me, and I'll continue to keep doing the work that following the steps that God has laid out for me. So thank you guys for allowing me to serve.
Councilwoman Williams?
Hello, yes, as Mayor Allen referred to, I did speak with Dr. Finley from the university, and we spoke about the current wastewater treatment situation that we have with the university. And Dr. Finley charged me with finding out some information, and one of the things he wants me to find out, and I have already done so, is how much Waller charges for sewage and water, how much Hempstead charge for sewage and water. And he's also charged me with finding any possible document that refer to any kind of contract or any kind of agreement that was previously done with the university. And so in doing that, I am speaking with those individuals who were in charge at that time of being over the wastewater treatment for the city of Prairie View, and they are currently looking for any possible documents, because Dr. Finley said that he has looked and they don't have any noted contracts that were ever signed between the city of Prairie View and the university. He cannot find them. And so once I get all this information, then he and I will meet again and the mayor to see what resolution we can come up. He said because he is willing to work with the city. He doesn't want to burden the citizens with this bill, so he's willing to come to the table with something. So hopefully within the next couple of months, we will be able to do that.
Councilwoman Barnett?
No.
Okay. And in having missed last meeting, I just wanted to reference I was in the hospital with kidney stone surgery, but the phone calls, texts, and emails, they don't stop just because you're in the hospital. People don't know you're in the hospital. So the working every day still took place, and commitment doesn't end even when you're sick. Moving the agenda to item 2, discuss and take action on using the app Remind 101 to enhance communication so the city council can be informed of different city updates. Councilman Jones.
I thought it was a great idea, as you have heard us say plenty of times throughout today's meeting, is that we don't have a proper way or protocol set in place to chain of command going down with communication, and for us all to be on the same page, which leaves gaps in what we say and do, and not allow us and everyone on council to be on the same page as far as pushing out the statements of administration. I think before we got school on break, I had an opportunity to meet with our lovely judge and chief, basically see them in a different light. We basically just sat back and talked, but we also talked about how we should form a style of communication that's very transparent and easy, and most importantly, doesn't get anyone in trouble. So with doing so, I thought, well, I'm a student, so why not use something that SGA and other organizations use on campus. As Dr. Brown said, we use things such as apps. Well, this app doesn't has to be downloaded upon council or the mayor, but you go in and you basically, I gave documentation, sorry, mine. It's Remind 101. You go in and you log in basically with your phone number and password, or you use your email. And as you go through, it basically asks like, what's the class name, because it is used for school, but you can edit that. And basically, just transparent city of Prairie View. And then when you go in, it allows you to add documentation, which is on the last page. It allows you to add and removed. So let's say, God forbid, in a couple of years, I'm not reelected, and then you guys select someone else, and then you have an opportunity to remove me out of the talks and move someone in, as well as everyone can't respond to it. So it's only, well, let's say he's over when things are going wrong with the city, things of that such. He just will go into the app and go to the city of Prairie and then inform us about whatever is going on, and we could not reply. So basically we'll be informed to whatever is going on at that time. And it's very transparent because it could be on your phone, your computer, your laptop. So in this generation, this century, we all have phones and things of that such. So it makes it easier for us to have that form of communication, which we all basically have stated today.
Just a couple of things. First, I say that as an educator, we actually use Remind one-on-one throughout the district and Water. So all of our kids have Remind one-on-one with their respective teachers. And the biggest concern that we have is, would it be a violation of the Open Records Act? I saw you shaking your head over there, but with the fact that we can't respond, that appeases the Open Records request, right?
I mean, it can. I don't know anything about this app.
So you can send information. The way it works for us as teachers is, if my students have a test on Wednesday, I can say, hey, don't forget to study for your test on Wednesday. But they can't respond to me and say, okay, Coach Randall, I'll study. They can't respond at all. They just receive information, but they can't respond back to me.
Only the maker of the chat can.
The moderator.
Yeah, the moderator
can send things out.
Right.
So you might not have an open meetings violation. You might have a records retention policy, but it might be difficult to. We have to maintain those records as public records. So it sounds like it may work. It sounds like an email would work easier and be on your system already. I don't know if other cities are using this app at all. If you had a chance to do any research to see if other cities have been using this app, I have not heard that they are. It doesn't mean that we can't use it. It just might be something we need to do a little bit of research on. So, because when Facebook came out and that was the thing, and if Councilmember Rowland posts something on a Facebook page, and then Councilmember Barnett replies to the Facebook page, that can trigger, just something that simple. I know you're saying you can't respond, but if as long as it's just the moderator, that it sounds like it's probably okay, open meetings wise, but maybe not open records wise. We'll make sure we can retain all of those records.
What we need to do to make sure I think the only thing that we need to satisfy would be the workers' retention policy. And so we would need to check to see what our policy is and how do we, if someone requests, information, if the moderator is the mayor or the moderator is the chief, how do we save that? How is it saved on there? Do you know, Kendrick?
The way it works is basically, well, I know from a records request is that you can't, I guess, necessarily delete your message or delete messages that was sent out. It's forever on there once you type it up and you send whatever information is out.
We're already
How would the
using.
city
We're already using the robocall, so
Because it's basically upon an email. That's how it's able to.
He's saying it's not. It's the app wouldn't be for the citizens. The app would be for us.
Right.
So when we
Right, but you can designate on the robocall that we have, the system that we have. If I just wanted to communicate to a certain group of people, we could communicate to a certain group of people, and it wouldn't go out to everybody. You choose who you want to send the message to.
Well, let's take a look at it, because it's again another good potential communication tool, and check what you find out, and email back and forth with the city attorney to make sure we can fill those. Because as Ms. Dickey reminds me, that evening, as I recall, you lost power in your area.
Right.
Because you weren't able to do the robocall. I forgot all about that, because again, we were so busy moving and trying to do stuff that I forgot you lost power, and that's why robocall didn't even go out when it did. But if Councilman Jones would get the information and see if we can't satisfy, and how a copy of that could be retained via email to the city
Right, or
secretary or
him and I
something.
get together.
Then we'll probably be fine. Yeah, working with them. That work. Okay, yes, sir.
Cost, is there a cost?
It's free of charge, and, like, what I like about it is that you even stated that you had, like, well, that the phones went out for 3 days. Well, you guys went home. Well, when you guys went home, well, you could still be able to communicate, like, basically no loophole for it to say, oh, well, nobody was transparent or was able to even get the communication out.
Next item, item 3, water bill accounts. I recently discovered that there was an account that hadn't been billed in just about 2.5 years, and me and Ms. Durham were working on that along with the billing company account manager. We changed city meter reading procedure because it seems there was some screw-ups over in that area where it wasn't clear who the meter belonged to and that sort of thing, and as well as reporting procedures. But again, just letting you know the smart city grant, smart meter project, it's costing the city not to be able to stay on top of a lot of these things. But again, I want to make sure if it's something of relevance to the council and residents, that's why it's on here. It's not to take action of telling you some of what we did. And again, tightening up some things with the billing company account manager, and Ms. Durham is working with and taking care of that. So unless anyone has any questions on it, I'll move to the next item. Item 4, discuss and take action on the city council getting a monthly reconciliation on expenses. Councilman Jones.
Basically, another item that I just felt like would be very transparent, because in USW report today, I feel as though all the council would say it was very helpful for us to see where the money was going, how much money was spent, and also how much money did insurance or FEMA help us out in each category. So instead of at the end of the month, we just get, oh, the city in this department spent $2,000. We actually get a breakdown upon what we spent $2,000 on, basically, so it wouldn't slap nobody in the face and still be transparent upon each other.
Basically, you asking for like accountability.
That's it.
We used to do that. The reason why we stopped is because we were receiving it at the end of the month when the accounts were already paid. So we're turning to receive accounts payable before accounts were already paid. So I don't know.
The reconciliation is just that. I think before, there were some citizens who were out, like, you know, the mayor was one of those who brought it up. Reconciliation is just so we know what's going on. Remember, our monthly reports are not current 30 days out. Our monthly reports are 2 months out. The reconciliation that we used to get monthly, whether it was spent already, we knew what came out for that month. And I think right now, with the surprise we got last month, we don't want those types of things, because it would have said USW 151. It would have said, you know, remind app 10, you know, whatever it is. And so I think reconciliation just helps us to be able to be in the know. So, I mean, it's not full. I think it's a good idea. I just think, so not to approve it, but so we know what monthly expenses are being you know.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just want to make sure that everybody knew, as you were saying, talking apples to apples, and, you know, so that we know exactly what he was asking.
So it's still back to, I think, what you're referencing, Councilman Randall. A reconciliation on expenses is after the expenses are paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because we don't know what's coming in or goes out for that month. The reconciliation gave us the information, because again, once we approve items in the budget, it's just that, and so we need to now clearly match up these expenses to these expenses. So, Mr. Mayor?
Can I address that?
Hold on. Well, let's put the motion on the floor and
Go ahead.
discuss
Well,
it.
'cause I got,
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman?
I move that we receive all accounts payable monthly reconciliations on expenses.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the council receive a monthly reconciliation on expenses. You've heard the motion, ready for the question. Mr. Johnson, you had unreadiness.
yeah, what is an account reconciliation? What do y'all want?
The
The bills that have been paid.
the bills that have been paid for
Okay.
each month.
In the financial statement, I can give you the detail that will show each bill that was paid and how it was booked. I give you now the summary of it. I can, for instance, on the profit and loss statement, it'll say expenditures for council. And it'll just have one number. But I can give you, and I was giving y'all that at one time, I can give you the detailed pages that show each entry or each transaction that make up that summary number. And that gives you everything that you're asking for. But that report was like 40 pages, and that's what it will be. Again, my report will be 40 pages long, but it'll give you all the detail.
Can we do that digitally?
Pardon me?
Digitally, can we just?
That's, what do you mean? On the email?
Yeah, can you just email it?
Yeah, I can email it to,
Don't, I'm saying, don't put that in your.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let me email y'all.
I mean, that's okay, you can email it to us and keep bringing us there.
Right, yeah.
We just
We
want
That'll
to
be
see
40
it.
pages
want to
long.
save at least one tree out here. Let them know that the city of Prairie is
Right.
environmental friendly.
No, see, I can give one email that copy to Ms. Dixon. And then y'all can,
That's it.
if you need to go to her, then she can email it to you. And you can see, I know.
Is
That's
that
why-
acceptable to the mayor?
But again, that'll give you all the information that you just asked. Now, but again, time-wise,
It's 30
we can't
days
give
after
it to
the
you
fact.
any sooner than what we're doing.
Right.
That's okay, but we won't be able to say, well, like, I know last week when we seen the water thing, we was like, well, I know I wasn't the only person that was like, I thought insurance, like, played a big deal or a big part of it, it's just like, all right, so now when you reconcile and you see it, it's like, oh, okay, insurance only covered $90,000, the city still paid, yeah, instead of, we just saying a big lump sum, and I.
But we have that data. It's
Yeah,
just a
and
matter of
I know.
giving it if y'all want.
And what we can do too is, because I know we discussed and you gave that information, and USW talked about it, and talked about where the funding source was from, and maybe we just need to, particularly on those high dollar projects, just spend a few minutes on that and less on some of the other stuff.
You got it.
So that it can become clear, this is what's happening, because they gave us the number, they gave us the 51, and of course, we didn't know what the insurance part was gonna be, but we did talk about paying the difference between. So again, we'll just spend more time on that, just to make sure everybody's as clear as possible
Right.
when we're talking, especially with those high dollar amounts. Okay.
So,
yes, you
so
said-
will that be
you got another
something y'all
reference?
want me to do? So, I mean, I can give y'all the information, and I can give it to, give her in an email.
That's what I'm basically
Okay.
asking.
Well, I guess one of my just only thing is the time frame. Right now, our reports are 60 days out, 45 to 60 days.
45, it's the timing of your meetings now. That's a,
Right, well, right. So I guess we would need it for every meeting, maybe, just like that
Oh,
once, whatever.
That's
that
something
once.
else we can do. Let me ask you guys this. If we just gave you a listing, and we can do that on a timely basis, we can go into the check register and give you a listing of all the checks that were written. We can do that on a real-time basis. So will that suffice? The check register will show you the vendor and the amount. Now, it won't tell you
What it's for.
what it's for.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing we can give you on a real-time
Gotcha.
basis, you see.
But I don't.
Right, you want to see, again, and again, we give you that, for instance, it's really a month and a half is what it is. But, and that's the earliest we can process it.
But see, you gotta get the bank statement.
Yeah, right, we gotta get the bank statement, yeah, right. But we can give you the data.
I can speak for myself. I wouldn't speak for, like, be able to see the breakdown. Of course, once again, you don't have to make a report 40 pages, but at least get it to council and stuff, so that way they can send an email.
We can do that.
We can see, like, we won't be surprised when we see.
We can do that, via an email.
Okay. Any call for questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Discuss and take action to ratify Mayor Allen's hiring of Ms. Rona Hayes as part-time administrative clerk. As you all saw this evening or any time during the week, Ms. Cortez is gone for 2 to 3 months. She's got 3 months out. She said 2, but within the baby, you know, it's going to. She's allowed 3, and it winds up with that. Councilman Randall?
Have all of the appropriate steps as far as the hiring process?
Yes, sir. It was posted, several interviews and that sort of thing. A few of those people dropped out. And Ms. Rona Hayes, why don't you stand up? This is Ms. Hayes, who's been doing an incredible job. She's already up to speed on processing water sewer payments, which is a huge part of what our folks do. Yes?
2 questions. When did she start? Second is, when was it posted? Did we receive? I don't recall us having a posting.
This position has been posted, and it was approved some time ago. It's in the budget. We got a second admin clerk in the budget. But the interviews have taken place. It's been going on for a minute, but as Ms. Cortez got closer and closer, it became more and more relevant to get somebody else in one of those chairs. Yes, ma'am?
So is Ms. Hayes gonna be a permanent full-time person, a part-time person?
I'll say part-time, full-time, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So is Ms. Cortez's position being held through FMLA? Or
Yes.
It has to be.
After, yeah,
making
absolutely.
sure the other-
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Randall?
I move that we approve the ratification of Mayor Allen's hiring of Rona Hayes as part-time administrative clerk.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we ratify Mayor Allen's hiring of Ms. Rona Hayes as part-time administrative clerk. You've heard the motion, ready for the questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. 6, discuss the process after city council approves planning and zoning. Councilman Rowland.
So in our last meeting, we talked about, we had planning and zoning here. We had a town hall meeting that went very, very long. And some things that we realized through that process, so we wanted to bring it back to council and kind of find out from you, what does that process look like? So we talked about, once city council approved a property, went for planning and zoning, goes to city council, it came to city council, we approve a rezone. What does that process look like on paper, so we can make sure we're able to communicate that to citizens? Because it was very vague in gray areas in which people said they had the wrong application, that they weren't even coming through the planning and zoning. They weren't for sure that they had enough required square footage, spacage, easement needed to go to that rezone. So what is, where is that process, and what do we need to do to make it more clear for people who want to?
Well, the biggest issue I found was probably Mr. Vargas. His issue started prior to me becoming mayor, and as a result of looking at his, the others were more recent. I asked our city attorney, Mr. Kerwin, to get with planning and zoning. Actually, before that, Ms. Hayes had gotten with planning and zoning a couple of times for training, and that didn't quite pan out. So I asked Attorney Kerwin to get more involved in that process, meet with them, help direct them literally through based on the applicants and what was required, posting, just all of that, because it was a lot of back and forth, and we wound up having to cancel some meetings because they hadn't been posted correctly, so that's why it's stretched out. I want to thank, again, Attorney Kerwin for doing that, because it straightened that process out, and we were able to move it. But after planning and zoning approves it, for example, the Rosewood project or rezoning, that allowed us to contact 811, and we're ready to connect that lady's manufactured home to our water and sewer once we get the 911 approval for what lines are underground and that sort of thing. So we've moved on fulfilling those requests once council approved them. What do they look like on paper? The planning and zoning map probably hasn't been updated in about 7-8 years. There are a few other things I found, and Attorney Kerwin and I talked about that, just to really bring it up to speed so that we could advise people properly, and they could go online and look at and better understand the zoning as well. But the paper process, a lot of that had to do with confusion, because people were told you have to go through planning and zoning. Council, would you share with us when they have to go through planning and zoning? Because unless you're rezoning something, planning and zoning is not automatic. Would you?
That's correct, unless you're doing a zoning text amendment, changing the text of the zoning ordinance, or you're changing the map. Those have to go through the rezoning process. If it's a use by right, do not have to go through the rezoning process.
In other words, if it's zoned for what you want to do there,
Right,
you can do it once you buy the land from whomever and that sort of thing. So-
There may be a plating issue that has to go to the planning part of the Planning and Zoning Commission, even if it's a use by right. They may have to subdivide or submit a plat. But if they don't have to do that and it's zoned correctly, then they just come and get a building permit, and they have to comply with all of our building codes and the inspections and those sorts of things.
So the checks, so I guess, you know, what we heard last month, and we heard prior to, what we're just trying to do is make sure that the process is either documented, so when a person says, hey, I need to get a permit, so what does that process look like? Oh, no, I need, so I do 1, 2, and 3. Oh, my thing says, this says residential, or, you know, this is mixed use and I need a commercial. So we need to, where do they go and find out that it says, oh, I need to do this, this, and this. And so once council, it goes through planning and zoning for the rezone, council approves it, we have, like, so does it then get kicked back to Veritas, and then it goes back to your office, and it's moved in where a person can do that, or what's, clearly identify the process to us on.
It's up to it's up to whoever is doing the rezoning to make the next step. It's not up for the city to do anything. So once you've approved it, if they want to build their townhomes, right, and you've approved townhome development, they have to then come to the city and ask for permits. It's not for the city to reach out to them or the mayor or you, or to say, hey, come get it, we're ready.
No, I'm not the client. I'm saying what our current process is. So someone says, I clearly know the 9 steps I need to take to be able to work through this process. Oh yeah, my zoning doesn't work. What do I do now? Okay, I go to rezoning. I gotta go to planning and zoning. And so I know that the people, the employees at City Hall are directing them where to go. They have now the paperwork. Mr. I forget his name. He said he's been doing this process 3 times for however many years. Yeah, he talked about, he had a separate form, he had this form, the packet that we had wasn't the packet he had, and so we didn't all have the information, so I'm just trying to figure out from moving, like, so after we approve that, not his property, but if we approve anyone or disapprove, what is the next, so do they go to, those people need to contact Veritas, or do they need to contact City Hall or Planning and Zoning? What's that process, and do we have that you know, when you pick up the zoning paperwork, it's a 2-page application?
I'll give you the process with Ms. McCardle, for example. Since she has already moved her manufactured home in, and she had actually paid for the water sewer connection, but I wouldn't authorize it because I knew it had to go through planning and zoning. And that's, you have to circle her back around and do the appropriate contacts and that sort of thing. Once council did approve it, then I gave our guys the okay to do the connection, which she had already paid for. They called the 811 before you can dig, so hers is moving, she's aware of it and that sort of thing. There was another, outside of Mr. Vargas, and outside of.
Yeah, so you had the property off of Owens Road, 12.23 acres, that was going from mixed use to R3.
The townhouse development.
Townhouses.
Oh, okay, so now it's, again, the permit process. Now, see, what happens is, now that it's been, as council said, once it's changed to what you want to do, now you just apply for your permits and you're in the system. Basically, what they had to do with planning and zoning was, can I get in the system for what I want to do there? And that's what council approved. So now the normal process really kicks in and they can start digging, you know, whatever they apply, get the permits, that sort of thing.
And I think some of your questions are about even before it comes to council, which we've gone through 4 of these now since I've been your attorney, and I see some ways we can improve the process for the next set of applications that come through so that we don't have some of the issues that we've had come up at the 11th hour. So I'm going to work with planning and zoning to solve some of those issues.
And one of the things too that but I know added to the confusion, in talking with some of the people, they would say, I was told. Well, now, we're not dealing in conversation at the front desk. If they want to do something, it's got to be in writing. Submit your permit, submit your diagrams. That way we're clear on what it is they want to do, where they want to do it, and then where they go, and where it goes. Whether it's planning and zoning or does it qualify for a permit. So the toning of the conversation, when we get a lot of calls, we tell them, no, submit what you want to do, so they can't say you said something that you didn't say, or you understood one thing and they meant something else. So that helps cut down on that as well. Item 7, plan for town hall on campus as a special meeting. Councilman Jones.
So when I first came on council, I asked for there to be 2 town hall meetings per school year each semester, and you guys have granted me that opportunity. So I wanted to hold the town hall, basically get a date in mind to hold the town hall, and you live and you learn as you grow, watching and learning its mistakes. So in posting and making sure that it's a special meeting as we just had today, and saying what date works for council.
Do you have any proposed dates?
I would say any Tuesday at 6 o'clock is fine with that.
One thing, we have an upcoming election in a few months, and one of the things that we started was having a debate on campus. I don't know if you want to make that one of your meetings, but I know that will be taking place in case you want to incorporate it, but whatever date you would like to do, then you can decide what you'd like to do with it.
I played a big part in planning, helping the campus with that event, but personally, think that this event, that when I came up with this idea, I did not have that in mind and keep it away from voting.
Okay, so you have dates in mind, or you want to get back with this, or you just want this approved?
I'll say March 5th.
March 5th, let's see, Tuesday.
I mean, my bad, March 6th. Appreciate it.
And you gave a time?
6 p.m.
And do you want to have do you plan to have a topic, or you're saying a special meeting for what purpose?
The reason why I thought I had to put a special meeting is so that way, if all the council was to show up, that it would be allotted.
Okay, so it'll be posted?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So
it's an open town hall meeting.
Yes, sir.
we still need a topic. I mean, you have to.
Do we need,
Special meeting to do what? Yeah.
do we, I guess the special meeting, we know we're trying to just to satisfy what we need if everyone wanted to show up.
Right.
As far as the verbiage, like this topic, the town hall meeting we had about water and wastewater, we only talked about that. And so I think I guess the last meeting was kind of open. People can have any questions they want or kind of learning about our process. How do we,
You can notice it by like, maybe, you can put 10 topics that, or 15 topics. I mean, you don't want to go too far, but,
I mean, I just can't.
you know, so things that you think might come up with the students, you know, you can't add 100 and be like, okay, we're going to talk about all these 100. But you can have a normal number of topics, 5, you know, that you think are important, that y'all want, that you think the students want to talk about, that then you can answer back and forth.
I get the topic, especially would be the plan, our specific plan to move the city forward. So in our own way, how do we plan to move the city?
How each council member plans to move, and, okay.
Now, I guess my question would be, our original city council meeting is scheduled for the 5th. Does this meeting replace that meeting, or will we be meeting?
No, this would be a special meeting.
Special meeting. We'll still be meeting.
So the way it works is you're gonna do a special meeting, which means you'll need to open the meeting, you'll have to have a supermajority, which is 4 of you, okay? If you don't have enough of a quorum to open a special meeting, okay, then you can't have a special meeting. You could still meet with, say, the mayor and 2 council members that would not qualify as a quorum, and you wouldn't open a meeting. Does that make sense? You would
So just be an open, like, town hall discussion?
It would be, but you'd only have 2 council members. The mayor doesn't count for quorum purposes, and 2 council members, so that you don't run afoul of the Open Meetings Act. So if you show up and you've got 3 council members there, someone's gonna need to leave, okay? Because you're not gonna be able to call a special meeting, because you won't have your supermajority. You can follow the agenda if you want and talk, but because you won't have a quorum present.
They don't necessarily have to leave, right? They can sit in the audience and not participate.
I would say they should leave.
so two things. So do we have to post, we post for the special meeting, do we have to also post for the town hall both?
No, if you don't have a quorum, you're not posting.
Yeah, I'm
It's
okay,
just like
but
if,
I just have to make sure that I post for a special meeting.
just for a special meeting, right? I hope that you have a quorum and then you can move forward with that.
Here and there, or just here.
Post it here and you post it on the internet. I don't think it hurts to post a copy
Same-
over there where you
Same
have.
at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably get with Kendrick and we can post it on the SGA window.
Good, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on 7? Item 8, discuss and take action on $2,500 balance at 110 Bledsoe, unpaid water bill. Occupants/tenants were Simeon Queen and Brian Rowland, who lived there from March 2010 through May 2014, and left water bills still owed to the city. Ms. Durham, I need you, if you would come up and just give us the background, and for the record, this is not my issue. This was brought to the council at a meeting in September. And council at the time voted to not take action on it, and too many people are asking, and this situation is unique because we're talking current and former city council members. So if you would come up and just share the process of, if you'll come up, I'll help guide you through what we want, just to give background.
Why is it back on the agenda?
Okay, so
It's back on the agenda because council didn't act on it, and it was brought to our attention. It's an ongoing issue, and you're a current city council member. Oh, I thought we voted.
We voted it down,
No,
actually.
it was voted no action. It wasn't voted at all.
No,
But-
we voted it down because of the simple fact that we didn't feel as though it was fair to do
Well,
one thing and not do the other.
It's a collection issue, but
Yep.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, hold on. Let me give you the city policy. The city policy is if someone has a water bill and it's not paid, it's turned off. Now, Ms. Durham if you would share with us, what was the practice when you ran the bills and then you gave it to, I think, Mr. Jones?
You mean a disconnect list?
No, the unpaid list. Yeah, disconnect list, that would be correct.
Okay, well, I would prepare the disconnect list, and that list went to Mr. Jones, and I assume that Mayor Jackson had a chance to review it. And if there were people that they wanted to help, I'm not sure how that event took place or how they made their selection. I wasn't a part of that. I just only went by what was on the list when they gave it back to me, you know, whenever they gave it back.
So you just print it as you do now?
Yes.
And get with me, and then the decisions are made by
Right.
people above. Now, there's a resolution that the city passed on October 25th, 2011, that comes into play. And the resolution states, whereas the mayor and city council of the city of Prairie View, Texas, recognize the obligation of its citizens to pay taxes and other city obligations that have been assessed. And whereas the mayor and city council have an obligation to collect taxes and other obligations owed to the city of Prairie View, Texas. And whereas certain citizens who reside within the corporate city limits of the city of Prairie View, Texas, diligently pay their taxes and other city obligations. And whereas those city of Prairie View citizens who are currently within the city limits have an obligation to pay said taxes and other city obligations in order to receive the right to secure building permits and other municipal licenses, and individuals requesting building permits and other city services must pay their taxes and other city obligations before requesting city services. Now, therefore, be it resolved, and it passed. Now, Councilman Rowland and former Councilman Dr. Simeon Queen signed this in October 2011. The problem comes in when you turn the page, and I'll go through this real quickly. It shows a $274,000 in past unpaid obligations. If you turn, you'll see in the lower quadrant of the page, account number 0613, Simeon Queen at 110 Bledsoe, 52914, closing that account with a balance of $614.04. If you turn to the next page, you see Trazon Smith, whose name, and he was a former resident. It still shows account number 0613, okay? And that's $1,957. When you turn the page, you'll see Simeon Queen at account 0613. The account was closed and thus reopened, and then closed still with an owing balance of over $600. Now, what the mayor, hold on just a second. I'll get with you, council. Let me finish this. Because last time, y'all didn't have all the information. You have a right to have it, and so does the public. There's an application and appointment process for boards, committees, and commissions, and it shows Simeon Queen during that time showing that he was in the city of Prairie View. The next one, appointment of a candidate treasured by candidate, shows Councilman Brian Rowland, City Council Position 1, at 110 Bledsoe Street, Prairie View, Texas, on March 11, 2011. The next one shows Councilman Rowland running for County Commissioner in current City Council Position 1 at December 14, 2011. The next one, February 28, 2013, shows Councilman Rowland at 110 Bledsoe Street. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you is twofold. One is to show, while it's Councilman Rowland's position that the bill was not in his name, the law in the state of Texas said if you live there, you are an occupant. You're an occupant. You live there. You can't, on one hand, claim residence there and say, as an elected official, you're held to a higher standard. And saying you're not going to pay your water bill when we sit up here and you make policy on cutting off everybody else's water bill. That was brought to our attention, and it's my job to make sure I put it in front of. Because what I'm looking to the council for is, I'm okay with your policy-making decision. I just want to make sure you understand, if city council members and former council members don't have to pay their water bill, then you have eradicated the policy across the city. And when someone else comes in and they have a financial hardship, then the decision might be that they don't have to pay theirs because you didn't pay yours. And if you look at this bill here, it shows former Councilman Queen and former Councilman Rowland. And it shows the billing address at P.O. Box 414, Councilman Queen's application for place on the City of Prairie ballot, mailing address P.O. Box 414, the same address as the bill. So we can't, on one hand, charge folks. If you come to this 8.5 by 11 page, 2 pages, a couple of pages from the middle, it will show you the payment schedule. Out of 56 months, there were 12 payments made. What I want to know from an investigation standpoint, which is my job, is why was this water not cut off, and was it but for the fact that you all were sitting on the city council?
Point of clarity. There was a water leak at that home, which we actually told the mayor. We reported it, and they were actually working it out between Serve and Trent, so you might want to get Serve and Trent's records on, and there were actually about 5 water leaks in the city at that time. So the point is, what you're talking about is what you don't know.
I have no documentation, but let me share this.
You have the wrong you have documentation that says that a water bill was cut off and disconnected services, but then it was reconnected. I didn't come back. What are you talking about?
We have our records showing the account was
You don't have all the records.
Trayvon Smith.
Trayvon Smith is not Simeon Queen.
And it was opened up in Simeon Queen and left with a $614 balance. Now, let me share this with you, Mr. Queen. While you're here, you were issued a permit.
I was not issued a permit, for clarity.
In violation.
I was not
of
issued a
city
permit.
policy. Well, you're right.
I was not issued a permit.
You're right, I'll take that into account.
So you can't do anything about a permit. I was not issued a permit in the city of Prairie. Period. See, that's what I'm saying. You're using your power and abusing it. Because the point is, my name is nowhere on any application for a permit.
Point of order here. This is not.
You're out of order.
It was point of clarity.
Now you're out of order, okay?
Okay, so when this came back to us in September, we deemed that it was a collection issue and that the city should pursue this issue through our collection issue that we have in place. So with that being said, I move that the city take no action on the $2,500 balance at 110 Bledsoe unpaid water bill tenant Simeon Queen and Brian Rowland lived there from March 2010 through May 2014 and left water bills still owed to city outside of our usual collection process that we have in place already.
Second. Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded that the city take no action for the $2,500 water bill outside of the usual collection efforts and policy process. Okay? Okay, you've heard the motion, ready for the question. Hold on. Did you have some, counsel, before we go forward?
I just wanted to, because this deals with Mr. Rowland, I would suggest that you abstain from voting on this.
Well, actually, it doesn't. My name is not on any of the documents.
It's on the agenda.
On the agenda, you have to
I'm not saying it is or not. I'm just saying it's on the agenda. Is your name?
My unreadiness.
Yes.
Can you speak to the issue?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have to.
Okay, go ahead.
So let's be clear. I'm not going to get political, but I'll remind all the citizens. My name is not on any of the bills he was referring to. That's the first thing. The second thing, I wish the mayor would have taken this authority to come out with this packet to address some of the other issues that we talked about tonight that he ain't had time to do. To talk about there's only one order one court case that the city has against, or that's an entity sued the city in
We're
the,
speaking to the motion.
Call for the question.
Call for the questions.
my unreadiness is the process.
Well,
The process
that's not on the motion.
you've already read, you can't take, I'm talking.
Oh,
The unreadiness is, I would hope that you take up the same process for INOC property.
uh-oh.
I would hope that you take up the same process for INOC property as you take up for the hundreds of the citizens that are on the list that is totaling the amount of money that you're talking about. That we just be fair. Council voted on this before. I'm gonna stay out of it, but my unreadiness is just hoping that you take up the same process moving forward.
Call for the question.
I agree, and you're right, anyone not on a payment plan has and will continue to be cut off. So you're correct there. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right? Ayes have it.
I abstain.
Was that,
Councilman?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to reiterate on something Dr. Brown started the meeting with.
And Councilman Jones, I don't mean to cut you off because I think you're probably going to say something nice, but this is not, we have moved on.
Okay, item 9, discuss and take action on 2012 condemnations by City Council. In looking back over the city's records, in 2012, I saw where the council voted to condemn 3 properties. 2 have been corrected, and again, just in keeping City Council informed, letting you know I will be getting with City Attorney Kerwin to see what, if any, action we can do on the 3rd property that was not condemned. This is simply keeping council informed. I'll bring it back in front of you because I wasn't able to. I had the minutes, but the minutes didn't reflect the 3 properties that were reflected on the agenda. So I have to dig up the agenda and haven't had an opportunity to do that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about, see the agenda, we don't know what property you're talking about or what you're talking about.
I agree.
So
And
why?
I just stated that I would be bringing it back to you. The agenda had to be made, and over the weekend, I didn't have an opportunity to dig up the agenda. I found the minutes. I sat in the audience, so I know what you did. But this is just letting you know what's coming. Just letting you know what's coming. You say, on one hand, you say you're not kept informed. I'm telling you, I'm bringing this list back to you. You were on the council at the time, so it shouldn't be totally foreign, but I'll be bringing it back to you. There's no action. I mean, I had that, but since I couldn't get the document to you, I'm not asking you to act on it. Fair enough? Item 12, consider and take action to adopt an ordinance providing rules and regulations for alcohol. Attorney Kerwin.
I provided, did everyone on council get the email I sent this weekend on the alcohol ordinance?
Yes.
Okay. So this is you have very few alcohol regulations in your code of ordinances. I think you have 4. You don't have any distancing requirements, you don't have any permit fees, you're starting to get some alcohol applications in, you've got to fill the gaps in, and that's what this ordinance does. Yes, Councilmember.
So I read the ordinance, I appreciate, I like the ordinance, but I had some questions before I don't know if we're in our stages to approve anything or we're just having a discussion. I wanted to know how many businesses are impacted by this ordinance currently.
This will be for only businesses that occur after this. Anybody who files an application, okay, after this ordinance will have to comply with all the regulations. The hours and everything are already set. The distancing requirements, if you're there, we cannot go back. So you're basically grandfathered if you have a distance issue. This fixes that going forward.
Will the how will we, so for businesses that already meet this requirement, how will we roll out this ordinance there's a process on forms? Like, we want to make sure, again, part of, as we talk through this, that there's we have everything together and not piece.
So I put in there that they have to fill out, I think it's called an alcohol application form. I think that's the word I used. I have one that I can send over to the city that I have developed for another city that y'all can use and just modify to Prairie View, if you'd like, so that they have an application. I don't know if you have an application. If you do, great. If not, I have one I can send over.
The council would like more time, so I can kind of this up.
Yeah, definitely, because I didn't receive the email.
At all?
I don't know if it got lost.
I sent it to everyone. I blind carbon copied you as well. When you get with me afterwards, I want to make sure I'll show you what I sent, and you can make sure I got my.
No, I believe that you sent it. I'm just telling you that it's not here. If you could just send it to me again, it would be great.
Absolutely.
So if there's a motion to table, so everyone has a chance to get it, review it, and digest it.
I'm moving to table item 10 to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that we table, consider and take action to adopt the ordinance providing rules and regulations for alcohol until the next meeting. Heard the motion, ready for your questions?
Question.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item 11, consider and take action to adopt an ordinance providing rules and regulations for signs. I think we wanted to carry that over.
That's correct. We're not ready on that item.
Okay.
Can we make sure on these changes, because they do impact current existing things and then things we want to move forward, if we could get some time. I think these are good and needed. I think I looked at an agenda from 2012 and we're talking about alcohol things, and so, but we want to make sure that they are consistent with like what we have now, because, well, not we're on another item.
Yeah,
just make sure they're connected.
Okay. Talk to me afterwards.
Just really quick. It was in my junk email. I got it.
Okay, good. Now I know where all my emails go.
Check for mine in there too.
Yes, please check your junk email,
Okay, we'll
please.
carry over. Attorney Cohen has some more information to give in preparation for item number 11. The mayor and city council members may request that certain items be scheduled for future agenda. Any future agenda items? Council? Other than some of the things we talked about.
Yeah. I guess we can go ahead and talk about the maintenance schedule, the repair schedule for the water lines. Just, they were actually just beginning a discussion about putting plans for the repair of water line.
I think what I need to do is just get you a copy of the water maps that we have, and then we'll have something to work from, because that's what we were working from.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ms. Nikki, if you make that note, just to have me get the accounts, I think one of the engineers had an emailable copy, and we'll see what we can print too, because when we print it, it's really small, because it covers the whole city, but we'll try to get you both. Yes, ma'am.
Before I ask what to be on the next agenda, did we ever find the paperwork from the Water County concerning what their new policies and procedures were going to be for the street? That they say they hands illegal?
No, but I'm sure we can get it, I guess. Yeah. No. For council's edification, and we'll put it on the next agenda, I did send a notice with a list of streets after some of our prior conversations about the interlocal agreements to the county judge and all the county commissioners. I haven't heard back from them. I sent it in December, knowing there was going to be a change January 1. I don't know if or how that would work, but we'll see what, if anything, we can do regarding our upcoming interlocal agreements on some of the streets that we know we need help on. But, yeah.
I can just send an email
Yeah, but
out.
yeah, we'll put that.
I'll just send an email to council, mayor.
Let me send you what I sent.
Yeah, okay.
And see if that helps. Plus, it has a list of streets that maybe they can say.
No, I'm sorry.
This one.
I'm at the executive session. I can just send an email on that. We don't have to go into executive session tonight. On the lawsuit.
Do we want to
I can just send an email.
put that out in?
Well, just for them. I mean,
Okay. All right,
I have something.
any further, yes ma'am.
Can we have the design company that's put the project on Bridges Road, can I do a presentation on their product?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that today. They are digging, and I put them with the engineer, and again, we're just fine tuning, but yeah, they're putting together the picture thing of what it's gonna look like. But yes, they are scheduled to come as soon as they get that part thing. But point of information, what they have done, and I'll send that to you so you can send it out to the council. They are doing like a naming contest for students to come up with and win a prize for the name, and that, you know, just sort of a marketing tool. I'll send you that I have, so you'll have what I have. But they are coming to agendas. They have the final stuff in place.
The floor plans and all that, permits and all that. The floor plans for the building.
Well, I don't know what all they're gonna bring, but
Could they bring those so we can see them?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're gonna. Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't mind that. Any other business? Motion?
Move to adjourn.